The girl no one could touch. The colony of Marrow 5 was quiet that night. Dust storms howled outside the metal walls, shaking the thin glass windows. Most people stayed indoors after dark, not only because of the storms, but because of the whispers. The stories everyone told, stories about her. She lived in the far end of the colony, in a small metal building with no doors for visitors. Only one window faced the street, thick and reinforced. Behind that glass, people said, lived a pale girl with silver eyes. They called her many names: the Ghost Child, the Curse, the Dust Maker, and everyone swore the same thing. If you touched her, you would turn to dust. The first time Captain Elias heard the rumor, he laughed. He had just arrived from Earth on a supply ship, bringing medicine and parts for the failing colony. Elias didn't believe in curses. He believed in science, in logic, in things you could explain. But as he walked through the streets, he noticed how people avoided that one building. Children crossed to the other side. Adults refused to look at the window, and for the first time he began to wonder that night. A miner named Jarek told him the whole story. She was found in the desert years ago. Jarek said, his voice low, a rescue crew brought her here, thinking she was just a lost child. But when her mother hugged her, she turned to dust. In her arms, same happened to the rescue crew. The ones who survived swore never to go near her again. Jarek looked Elias in the eyes. Stay away from her, Captain, or you'll be nothing but ash on the wind. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. The next morning, Elias walked toward the Forbidden Building. The street was empty, silent except for the wind. When he reached the window, he stopped. She was there, sitting in the corner, knees pulled to her chest. Her hair was long and white, her skin pale like moonlight. She looked no older than 17. For a moment, she didn't notice him then. She lifted her head, and their eyes met. Elias froze. Her silver eyes were not empty or cold. They were sad. Slowly, she stood and walked closer to the glass. Every step was careful, almost afraid. When she reached the window, she lifted her hand and pressed it against the glass. Her lips moved, but he could not hear her voice through the barrier. It looked like she was saying one word. Please, Elias. Lifted his own hand and placed it against the glass, matching hers. For a heartbeat, they stayed like that, separated by only a few inches. Then a loud metallic voice shouted, "Step away from the window." 2 armed guards ran up, pulling Elias back. One guard glared at him. "Do you have a death wish, human? That thing will kill you with a touch." Elias looked back at her, but she was already retreating into the shadows. Later that day, the colony leader summoned Elias. "You are here to deliver supplies, not to talk to the girl." The leader said sharply, "She is dangerous. Everyone who tried to help her is dead. We keep her alive because we must, but no one, not even you, can go near her." Elias left the meeting with more questions than answers. Dangerous or not, she didn't seem like a monster. She seemed like a prisoner. That night, Elias couldn't sleep. The image of her silver eyes kept returning to his mind. He remembered the way she pressed her hand to the glass, the way her lips formed that single word, and something inside him decided he had to know the truth. The next evening, when most of the colony was indoors, Elias went back. This time he tapped gently on the glass. She appeared from the shadows, her eyes widening in surprise. He smiled faintly. "My name is Elias," he said softly. She tilted her head, studying him for a long moment. Then she whispered something, slowly so he could read her lips. "Lyra." For a moment, they simply looked at each other. No threats, no fear, just 2 strangers in silence. Then a low rumble shook the ground. At first, Elias thought it was just the wind, but the rumble grew louder, the walls trembled, and a sharp crack echoed through the street. Elias turned his head just in time to see a thin fracture appear in the glass between them. It spread quickly, lines like spiderwebs crawling across the surface. Lyra's eyes widened in fear, and she stepped back, shaking her head. Elias could hear the alarms now. the distant shouts of guards. The glass was about to break. In that moment, Elias knew. Once the barrier fell, there would be nothing between them. If the rumors were true, one touch would kill him, but as the crack split wider and the first piece of glass fell away, Lyra stumbled forward, losing her balance. Instinct took over. Elias stepped forward and caught her arm before she fell. Everyone in the street froze. The guards who had been running toward them stopped dead in their tracks. No one breathed. Elias looked down at his hand holding her arm. He was still there, still solid. Lyra stared at him, her silver eyes full of shock. For the first time in her life, someone had touched her and lived. The forbidden's contact. The air was heavy after that moment. Elias still held Lyra's arm, his fingers wrapped around her cold skin. The guards stared in disbelief. Unsure if they should attack or run, one of them shouted, "Step away from her." But his voice cracked with fear. Elias slowly released her. Lyra stepped back, her eyes never leaving his face. It was as if she was trying to understand why he was still alive. Her lips moved, but the alarms and shouting drowned out her words. The guards rushed in, grabbing Elias by the shoulders. They dragged him away from her. One guard looked at him as if he had just seen a ghost. You should be dust," he whispered. Elias didn't answer. He just kept looking over his shoulder, watching Lyra as the guards pushed him down the street. She stood there behind the broken glass, her hair blowing in the wind. She did not look dangerous. She looked afraid. That night, Elias was locked in a small metal room inside the colony's main building. They called it protective custody, but it felt more like a cell. The colony leader, a man named Varon, came to see him. He was tall, with deep lines on his face and eyes that had seen too much. "You have no idea what you've done," Varon said, his voice sharp but not angry. "That girl is death. Every person who touched her is gone. We keep her alive only because we don't know how to kill her." Elias leaned back in his chair. "Then why am I still here?" Varon's eyes narrowed. "That's what I want to know. We've run tests for years. She can't touch anyone without ending them, and yet you're different. That makes you dangerous." Elias frowned. "Dangerous? Because I didn't die." Varon stepped closer, lowering his voice. "If the wrong people find out you can touch her, they will take you apart piece by piece to understand why. And they will take her too. You think we are cruel keeping her locked away? There are worse places in this galaxy." When Varon left, Elias sat in the dim room, thinking. He had come here to deliver supplies, not to get involved in whatever curse or secret the colony was hiding. But now it was too late. The moment he touched her, everything changed. He could still feel the cold of her skin on his palm, and the look in her eyes, a mix of shock, fear, and something else. Hope. The next day, Elias convinced the guard outside his door to let him speak to her again. It took hours of bargaining and promises, but finally the guard relented. Elias was escorted back to the building at the edge of the colony. The broken glass had been replaced with a temporary force field. Shimmering faintly in the air, Lyra sat inside, curled up in a chair, staring at nothing. When she saw him, she stood quickly. The guard stayed outside while Elias stepped closer to the glowing barrier. "I'm not here to hurt you," Elias said softly. Her silver eyes studied him. "You touched me," she whispered, her voice low and hesitant. "Yes," Elias replied. "And I'm still here." She stepped closer, her fingers brushing the edge of the force field. I don't understand," she said. "No one ever could before." Elias tilted his head. "Do you want to get out of here?" Lyra's eyes widened in surprise. She glanced around nervously, as if afraid someone might hear. "They'll never let me go," she said. "They think I'm a weapon. Maybe they're right." Her voice broke slightly on the last words. Elias shook his head. "Weapons don't cry, Lyra. Prisoners do." For a moment, neither spoke. The wind outside howled against the walls. Then Lyra took a deep breath. "I wasn't born like this. They made me." Elias leaned forward. Who made you? Her voice dropped to a whisper. Not from here, not human. Before he could ask more, the ground shook. A deep rumble rolled through the colony, louder than any dust storm. The guard outside shouted something into his Lyra's face went pale. They're here, she said. The lights flickered. A sharp alarm cut through the air. In the distance, a low hum began to grow, the sound of engines, not human ones. Elias felt the floor tremble beneath his feet. Outside the small window, shadows passed across the dusty sky, shapes of ships descending. Lyra stepped close to the barrier, urgency in her voice. You have to leave, Elias. They're coming for me, and if they find you touched me and lived, they'll take you too. Her words hung in the air, but Elias didn't move. For reasons he couldn't explain, walking away didn't feel like an option anymore. Somewhere above them, the sky roared. The unknown ships had arrived. The touch that should have killed him, the sky above Marrow 5 burned red. Alien ships hovered like dark blades in the clouds, their engines rumbling low. Colony sirens screamed through the dusty streets. People ran in every direction, clutching. Children dragging bags. The air felt heavy, thick with fear. Inside Lyra's cell, the force field flickered with each tremor. Elias stood close to her, refusing to back away. The guard outside shouted, "Stay here, Captain. Do not open that field." But Elias wasn't listening. His eyes were on Lyra, her pale face, her clenched fists, her trembling breath. "They're here for me," she said quietly. "They've come to take me back." Her voice was calm, but her eyes held something deeper. Terror. Elias stepped closer. "I'm not letting them." The ground shook violently. A blast hit somewhere nearby, throwing dust through the air vents. The force field around her cell crackled, sparks jumping along its edge. Then with a sharp pop it went out. They stared at each other. No glass, no field, nothing between them now. Lyra stepped back quickly, her voice urgent. "Elias, you can't." But the floor tilted with another explosion. She stumbled forward, losing her balance. Without thinking, Elias reached out and caught her. His hands closed around her shoulders, steadying her. Time seemed to slow. The guards, who had been rushing toward them, froze mid-step. One of them gasped, "He's touching her." Elias felt the chill of her skin, colder than ice. He half expected to feel himself crumble, to feel his body breaking into dust. But nothing happened. His heart was still beating. His legs were still under him. The only thing that changed was Lyra's expression. Her eyes widened, her lips parted in disbelief. "You," she whispered, "you're alive." Elias almost smiled. "Told you I'm stubborn." A guard stepped forward, aiming his rifle. "Get away from her." "Now." Elias ignored him, still holding Lyra. "Why am I the only one who can touch you?" he asked quickly. Her voice shook. "I don't know. Maybe because..." The rest of her words were drowned out by a deafening roar. The roof above them tore open as a massive shape descended. An alien boarding craft, sleek, black, with sharp silver lines, lowered itself into the street outside. A ramp extended, and shadowy figures began to emerge. Tall, armored, their faces hidden by masks. Lyra's body went rigid. "That's them," she said, her voice no louder than a breath. Elias didn't need to ask who them was. Every instinct screamed that they weren't here for peace. The guards raised their rifles, but Lyra shook her head. "They won't stop," she said. "They'll kill anyone in their way." Elias tightened his grip on her arm. "Then we're not going to be in their way. We're going to be gone." He pulled her toward the back of the building, moving fast. The guards shouted after him, but none dared get close. Even now, they still feared one brush of her skin. They pushed through a side door into a narrow corridor. The lights flickered, dust falling from the ceiling. Behind them, the alien voices grew louder, cold, and mechanical. Lyra glanced over her shoulder, panic in her eyes. "They can track me," she said. "I can feel it." Elias glanced at her. "Then we need to move faster." They reached the rear exit. locked. Elias slammed his shoulder into it until it gave way. Cold night air rushed in, carrying the smell of ozone and burning metal across the street. He saw the first alien soldier step into view. Its armor shimmered faintly like liquid steel. It raised a weapon Elias had never seen before, long, black, and glowing faintly blue at the edges. The weapon aimed straight at them. Before Elias could react, Lyra stepped forward. Her voice was low but steady. "Close your eyes." He didn't ask why, he just obeyed. A sound like a sharp hiss filled the air. When Elias opened his eyes again, the alien soldier was gone. Nothing left but a pile of fine, gray dust blowing away in the wind. Lyra's hands were trembling. "I told you," she said, her voice tight. "I am a weapon." Elias shook his head, pulling her with him into the shadows. "No," he said. "You're the reason they're afraid." In the distance, more alien troops poured into the colony. Their footsteps echoed like drums of war. The hunt for Lyra had begun. Asterisk escaped from the colony. The night air tore at their faces as Elias and Lyra ran. The colony was chaos, lights flickering, alarms screaming, dust storms swirling through open streets. Somewhere above, alien ships moved like predators in the clouds. Every step they took felt like running under the gaze of a hunter. Elias led her down a narrow alley between storage buildings. The ground shook under another explosion. Metal containers toppled, spilling tools and broken machinery into their path. Lyra kept glancing over her shoulder, silver eyes wide. "They're close," she said, her voice tight. "I can feel them." Elias didn't doubt her. He could hear the distant metallic clatter of armored boots on stone. The sound was steady, organized, moving in patterns that told him these weren't mindless attackers. They were soldiers trained to corner prey. They cut through the old maintenance yard. Wind whipped fine red dust into their faces, stinging their skin. In the distance, a group of colonists huddled near a shelter door. When they saw Lyra, they recoiled instantly, pressing their backs to the wall. Whispers followed, fearful, angry, but no one stepped forward to stop them. Even now, the curse kept people at a distance. Elias spotted a half-buried access hatch behind a pile of scrap. "This way," he said, hauling the heavy lid open. The smell of rust and stale air rolled out from below. It was a service tunnel, narrow, dark, but it would take them under the colony toward the outer perimeter. They dropped inside, Elias pulling the hatch closed above them. The tunnel walls were cold and damp, lined with old cables and pipes. Their footsteps echoed. Lyra's breathing was quick but steady. "How do you know where you're going?" she asked. "I don't," Elias admitted. "But I know where they will expect us to go, and this isn't it." For a time, the only sound was their boots on metal grates. Then, from somewhere ahead, a faint scratching noise. Elias froze, holding up a hand. The noise grew louder, not claws, but metal shifting. A shadow moved in the dim light. A soldier stepped into view. Its armor gleamed faintly, helmet reflecting the tunnel's weak glow. It raised a weapon, too fast for Elias to reach for his own. Lyra stepped forward, her hand lifting slightly. Elias grabbed her wrist, whispering urgently, "Not unless you have to." The soldier took a step closer. Then another shadow appeared, this one human. A miner, holding a makeshift pipe weapon. Without a word, the miner slammed the pipe into the soldier's arm, knocking the weapon away. The alien turned sharply, and Lyra didn't hesitate. She reached out, brushing its armored neck with her fingertips. The soldier dissolved instantly, drifting away like smoke in a breeze. The miner stared at her, face pale. Elias met his gaze. "You didn't see this. You didn't see us." The miner nodded quickly, disappearing back into the shadows. They moved again, faster this time. The tunnel twisted and dropped. At one turn, they found a rusted ladder leading up to a heavy grate. Elias climbed first, forcing the grate open. Cold wind roared in, carrying the scent of open desert. They emerged outside the colony walls. The sky stretched endless above them, red storms curling in the distance. Behind them, The colony's lights flickered like a dying fire. Above it, alien ships hovered, but now some were turning, scanning the sands. "We can't stay here," Elias said, pulling her toward the rocky outcrops. Beyond the wall, Lyra's voice was low. "They'll follow. They won't stop until they have me." Elias glanced back at her. "Then we don't stop either." They scrambled over jagged rocks. Wind tore at their clothes. Dust stung their eyes. Somewhere far above, one alien ship broke from the others and began to descend toward their position. Its searchlights cut through the storm, white beams sweeping the desert. Elias grabbed her hand, pulling her into a deep crevice between two cliffs. The light passed overhead, missing them by inches. Lyra looked at him, her silver eyes sharp even in the dark. "You could leave me," she said. "You'd be safe." Elias shook his head. "I'm not leaving the only person in this galaxy who can turn an army to dust." Her lips twitched, almost a smile, then the smile faded. "They made me for that," she said. "But I don't want to be what they made." From the sky, the alien ship's engines roared louder. It was coming back. The hunt wasn't over. It had only just begun. The alien claimed the desert wind was sharp. It hissed through the cracks in the rocks where Elias and Lyra hid. The night sky above them was cut in half by the silhouette of an alien ship. Its light swept the sand in slow, searching arcs. Somewhere far off, the colony was still burning. But now the fire was distant, like a memory already fading. A deep metallic voice filled the air. It wasn't coming from one ship. It was coming from all of them. The sound echoed through the rocks, through the ground. "Return the subject," it said, calm and cold. "She belongs to us." Lyra's breathing quickened. Elias could see her hands trembling in the faint light. "That's them," she whispered. "They found me." The voice continued. "Human captain, you have touched the subject and survived. You are now classified as an anomaly. Surrender her to us, and you will be spared." Elias let out a quiet, humorless laugh. "Generous of them," he said. Lyra turned to him sharply. "You don't understand, Elias. They're not here to bargain. They're here to take me." From the sky, one ship began to descend. Its engines glowed with a pale, ghostly light. As it drew closer, Elias could make out details. The hull was black, but not smooth. It shifted faintly, like it was alive. The ramp lowered with a slow, deliberate hiss. Figures stepped out, tall, armored in silver-black plates, their faces hidden by curved masks. Elias counted 6 of them. Each moved with the precision of something trained to kill. The leader stepped forward. His voice was sharper, colder than the broadcast. "Human, this is not your concern. Give her to us." Elias stood his ground. "She's not property," he said. The alien tilted its head slightly. "She is not alive in the way you think. She is a construct, a creation, built to be the perfect weapon against your kind." Lyra flinched at the words. "That's a lie," she said, but her voice was barely a whisper. The alien turned its masked face toward her. "You know it is the truth. We made you from what was left of your people. You exist because we gave you purpose." Elias stepped in front of her. "That purpose is over," he said. The alien leader's head tilted again, almost curious. "You touched her, and yet you live. This was not intended. You may be of use to us as well." The soldiers began to fan out, blocking every possible escape path. Elias could see the way. They moved, slow, but in perfect sync. They were giving him the illusion of choice. He looked at Lyra. Her eyes met his, and he saw the fear there. Not fear for herself, fear for him. In a low voice only he could hear, she said, "If they take you, they'll never let you go." Elias kept his voice steady. "They're not taking either of us." The alien leader took one step forward. "Last chance, human." Elias didn't answer. Instead, he shifted his weight just slightly. Lyra saw it and understood. She took a slow breath. Her hands, still trembling, began to curl into fists. The leader raised its arm, and in that instant, Elias moved. He grabbed Lyra's wrist and pulled her toward the gap between 2 soldiers. One reached for her, but her bare hand brushed the edge of its armor. It crumbled into dust before it could make a sound. Elias pushed through the collapsing remains. Lyra's breath was ragged now, each touch draining her strength. They broke into the open desert, the alien leader's voice roared behind them, "Do not let them escape." The ships above began to shift position. Searchlights cut through the night. Beams chasing across the sand. Lyra stumbled, but Elias caught her, pulling her forward. She looked up at him, silver eyes burning in the dark. "I was made to end wars, Elias," she said. "Then let's start by ending theirs," he replied without slowing. Behind them, the alien forces gave chase. The desert became a battlefield waiting to happen. War in the void. The stolen shuttle rattled as it tore free from Merrill 5's atmosphere. Elias gripped the controls, his hands steady but his jaw tight. Outside the cracked viewport, the planet's red storm shrank away, replaced by the endless black of space. But they weren't alone. 3 alien ships rose from the planet's shadow, their engines glowing pale blue. They moved in perfect formation, hunting without hurry. Lyra sat in the co-pilot's seat, her head tilted slightly. "I can feel them," she said, her voice low. "Every thought, every order, they're focused on me." Elias glanced at her. "Good, let's make them regret that." The first shot came like a spear of white light, cutting across the shuttle's nose. The hull groaned as Elias pulled them into a hard roll. The second shot missed by meters, exploding into a flare of heat against the black. The third hit. The shuttle shuddered, alarm screaming. "We can't outrun them," Elias said, teeth clenched. Lyra's silver eyes turned toward him. "Then we fight." Her hands pressed against the metal panel between them. A faint shimmer began to run through the ship's walls. Elias felt it, a strange cold seeping into the controls. Outside, one of the pursuing ships drifted too close. Its black hull shimmered, then cracked apart like glass. The pieces dissolved into dust. Spinning silently into the void, Elias stared for a moment. "You can do that to ships?" Lyra's voice was quiet, almost guilty. "I can do it to anything, but it takes from me." The remaining 2 ships broke formation, moving to flank them. One came in from above, firing bursts of energy. Elias dove hard, the shuttle groaning under the strain. The other ship swung wide, its weapons locking on. "Too close," Elias muttered. Lyra stood, bracing herself against the seat, her hands pressed to the bulkhead. The glow in her eyes brightened. A pulse ran through the hull, out into space. The flanking ship froze mid-turn. Its sleek form began to crumble into drifting gray. Lyra staggered, her breath sharp. Elias caught her before she fell. "That's it," she said weakly. "I can't, not again." He set her back into the seat. "One left," he said. "We'll handle it the old-fashioned way." The last alien ship pulled back. It wasn't retreating. It was calling for help. Elias could see the faint flashes on his sensors. "More ships, inbound." "Not good," he muttered. Lyra's gaze followed the readings. "They'll never stop," she said. "They'll keep coming until I'm back in their hands. Or I'm gone." Elias tightened his grip on the controls. "Then we make sure they can't follow." He punched the thrusters, aiming the shuttle toward a narrow field of broken asteroids. Chunks of rock tumbled in slow arcs, jagged and sharp. The alien ship followed, weaving between the debris with inhuman precision. Elias pushed the shuttle deeper into the field. Metal scraped along stone, the hull groaning under the pressure. The alien ship closed in, weapons charging. At the last second, Elias rolled the shuttle hard, ducking behind a spinning asteroid. The alien ship fired. The blast slammed into the rock instead, shattering it. The fragments tore through the alien ship's hull like knives. A silent plume of dust drifted into the void. Silence returned. The shuttle drifted free of the asteroid field. Only the hum of the engines remained. Elias glanced at Lyra. Her eyes were closed, her breathing slow. "You still with me?" he asked. She opened her eyes, a faint smile on her lips. "For now," she whispered. Then her expression darkened. "They'll send more," Elias looked out at the empty stars. "Let them try," he said. But deep inside, he knew this was only the first battle. The choice that changed everything. The stars stretched endlessly before them. The shuttle drifted in the quiet between worlds, its engines low. For the first time since Marrow 5, there were no alarms. No sirens, no chasing lights, only silence. It should have felt like safety, but Elias knew better. Lyra sat across from him, knees drawn up. Her silver eyes followed the slow spin of a distant asteroid outside the viewport. She looked calm, but her hands told another story, fingers tapping. "Restless. They'll send more," she said finally. "They won't stop, Elias. Not until they have me, or until I'm nothing." Elias leaned back in the pilot's chair. "You're not nothing, and you're not theirs." She didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice was quiet. "You don't know what I am. Not really. I wasn't made to live a life. Elias, I was made to end them." He studied her face. There was no threat in her words, only a deep sadness. "Then maybe it's time you decide what you're made for," he said. "Not them." The quiet between them was broken by a sudden chime from the console. Elias turned, a proximity alert. A ship was approaching, fast. But the readings didn't match the alien hunters. This one was smaller, older. "Human-made," Lyra's brow furrowed. "They found us?" The cum crackled. A voice came through, human but cold. "Captain Elias, this is Commander Brask of the Terran Defense Fleet. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. You are carrying classified property of the United Earth Authority." Elias shot Lyra a sharp look. "Property?" he said. Her expression hardened. "They think I belong to them too." The human ship came alongside. Its hull was scarred, but its weapons were live. Through the viewport, Elias could see soldiers in boarding gear moving toward the airlock. "Elias," Lyra said, her voice low, urgent. "If they take me, I won't be coming back. Not to you, not to anyone." The airlock alarm began to flash red. The first clang of boots on metal echoed through the shuttle. Elias's hand hovered over the controls. He could give her up and walk away alive. Or he could fight. Against humans this time, and be hunted by both sides. Lyra stood slowly. Her eyes locked on his. "Whatever you choose, Elias, I'll follow." Her voice wavered only once. "Because you're the only one who's ever touched me and not turned to dust." The boarding hatch began to open. Elias made his choice. His hands slammed down on the emergency controls. Sealing off the airlock, the shuttle's engines roared to full power. They shot forward into the dark, leaving the human ship spinning in their wake. Lyra gripped the seat. "You just made an enemy of Earth," she said. Elias didn't look. "Away from the stars ahead. Seems I'm getting good at making enemies." For a moment, there was silence. Then Lyra's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "Elias, you weren't the only one who could touch me." He turned to her sharply. Her silver eyes glimmered in the dark. Before he could ask what she meant, the console lit up with dozens of new contacts, ships closing in from every direction. And not all of them were alien. The hunt had only just begun.